forget who really knows what's the truth. Often dignified, how funny changing the tide. It feels like you already knew. That's the downfall, you would never run in circles. Feels like you already knew. That's the downfall, you would never.
What's up, party people of Pedophileville, apparently, in the United States? I don't freaking know. We'll get into that. I know we've talked about this a little bit, but we're going to talk about it a little bit more and some other issues. As you can see from the title of this episode, I have my feelings about these two nitwits that we're about to discuss, and we've got other nitwits that we also want to discuss. But these two they seem to be vying for the retard championship, and they are putting it all in. So before we go any farther, let me start the recording, and then we shall proceed with the Liberty Talk.
The Constitution isn't just a document. It's a blueprint for freedom. We're breaking down politics at every level, exposing government overreach, and going where the mainstream media surely won't. Join us in defending individual rights against the bureaucratic tide. You're listening to the Missouri Liberty Report.
All right, folks, we're back for a very pedo edition and war hawk edition of the Missouri Liberty Report. I'm not saying that we're pedos and we're not war hawks. It's just that's the type of people we're going to be talking about on this episode, plus a little bit of other stuff.
Thank
couple
you
of Missouri.
clarifying.
Yeah. I don't want people like, oh, Jesus. And immediately he's like, no, stop it. I don't want to listen anymore. But anyway, thanks for joining us. First of all, if you guys see this on YouTube or Rumble, I asked that you would subscribe and hit that notification bell so that when we do an episode every Tuesday night, you will get notified when the stream goes live. If you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, one of those, leave us a rating, leave us a review. Someone was very kind on the I believe on the Facebook page the other day, left us a very good review, and I haven't looked at it for a while, but and I can't remember that individual's name, but I appreciate you leaving that very kind review for the show. Again, folks, we got several things to talk about. Let's talk. Good Lord, let me clear my throat here. All right, maybe that's better now. It's like I'm fine all day, and then I go to get behind the mic, and suddenly all the mucus goes and tries attacking the back of my throat. So anyway, let's talk a little bit of Missouri business here first. We won't spend a whole lot of time, but Brandon found an article here. Let me bring up the actual page. I'm just going to pull up the article from Fox 2 News, and we'll read this real quick. Let me pull up the actual page. So the title, and this was from yesterday, Fox 2 News, Missouri gas station gaming machines are illegal, judge rules. It says thousands of video lottery terminals that operate Missouri gas stations and closely resemble casino slot machines are illegal, a federal judge has ruled. On Friday, a federal judge ruled against a Missouri-based gaming machine company known as Torch Electronics, saying that their game of chance machines qualify as gaming devices under state law and therefore are operating illegally. By law, Missouri broadly defines a legal gambling device as any machine on which a player risks money on the outcome of a game of chance where the result cannot be fully determined by skill. Various lawsuits in recent years have alleged that Torch Electronics and others are operating unregulated slot machine style devices, also known as video lottery terminals. The machines typically appear in gas stations and liquor stores across the state. The VLTs look similar to regulated slot machines at Missouri casinos, but allow players to see or predict outcomes before playing, sparking controversy over their legality. Given the central fact that Torch devices do indeed involve an element of chance, the devices clearly meet the definitions of gambling device. Friday's court ruling reads, necessarily then outside of a licensed casino, the devices are prohibited in the state of Missouri. They are illegal. The ruling could give local prosecutors and the Missouri Attorney General a clear legal basis to seize torch machines, pursue criminal charges, or order their removal from businesses across the state. Torch Electronics could also potentially file an appeal. The Missouri legislature is currently considering proposals, including House Bill 2989, that would regulate and tax unregulated gaming machines like torch-operated VLTs. Following recent amendments, the measure could face some heated debate on the Missouri House floor this week. Missouri Attorney General Catherine Hanaway previously told Fox 2 that if the legislature doesn't act on the unregulated machine, she would take action. This follows lawsuits filed against 5 retail shops in southeast Missouri tied to unregulated gambling operations. Last week, Missouri Governor Mike Kehoe signaled potential support for a legal pathway for the gaming devices, but only if they are regulated and taxed. He told Fox 2 he would defer to the ongoing legislative process. Certainly, as we're trying to figure out problems with our budget, where we're trying not to cut programs that are essential, we have to make some very hard decisions. We want to look at things that are out there right now that aren't operating legally that could provide a revenue stream through some sort of regulation. Governor Mike Kehoe told reporters last week that he would potentially consider supporting legislation that would regulate and tax the devices. Certainly, as we're trying to figure out the problems with our budget, where we're trying to not cut programs that are essential, we have to make some very hard decisions. We want to look at things that are out there right now that aren't operating legally that could provide a revenue stream through some sort of regulation. I'll just give you my comments. I'm going to be brief with this. God forbid we had something out there that's not regulated and taxed. And because our state can't operate in a financially normal or good way, this is what they do. They chase every revenue stream that they can find. And God forbid, again, if you are operating an unregulated machine, I love how because it's a game of chance, it's gambling, therefore it must be in a casino or some licensed building, right? I love that because people think they're not playing for a game of chance because it requires skill. There is no skill in a slot machine. You put money in, you pull the lever, or you hit a button, you hope you win. I don't know how. There's no skill to that. It's luck. It's luck. Hence gambling. And there are people out there with gambling addictions. I'm not going to lie, right? We probably all know somebody that just can't not gamble. The fact is, if you could take the casinos out, you could do all these things. They'll just go to old mob style bookies and stuff. They're going to find a way to gamble and try to win big so they can retire or whatever. So this is just, God dang these people. But I love how, we got some tough decisions. Really, it shouldn't be that tough. I said I was going to keep this brief and look at me go. But it shouldn't be that tough. But yet, they're not talking about cutting the wasteful spending. They're just talking about some budget cuts. But the real cuts, where the stupid amount of money gets spent, they don't want to talk about cutting that out. They want to cut programs, and all that does is give Democrats some reason to cry about it, and Republicans to make excuses, and then it just goes on and on and on. But there's no real talk of responsible spending for the Missouri government, and there's nothing to incentivize them to do it either, unless the majority of the people in Missouri decide to call to the Capitol building and say, hey, jerks, stop spending so much money, or none of you are getting reelected. I mean, that's the only choice you have. You have to fire the majority of them for spending recklessly, or it's not all their fault, but they continue the same pattern. I get it. They didn't start it, but they sure as heck aren't finishing it. Or these idiots will continue to be in charge and continue to spend recklessly and then cut out the income tax and then move it to the sales tax. So I don't know. Take it away, Brandon.
No, to not to gloss over what you were saying, because it's 100. It definitely should be the focal point when you hear things like tax revenue and a way for us to generate money is that how about instead you just cut spending, and then also like you said, what aren't like heaven forbid we have some form of there's something in this country that's not taxed and regulated in some form or fashion. It's outrageous. But for in particular with this like they give it away. Like they don't even try to hide it anymore. They're like, there's got to be a way to make money off this. It's simply too good. And so, yeah, I mean, you could just let the market handle it. I mean, I'm sure like we would have heard by now if it was a big problem, if people under 21 were using these machines, right? Like, wouldn't you assume that if that was a big issue with the machines? So what are we talking about here? You've got people the legal age of gambling, using a slot machine. I'm sorry they didn't have to drive to one of your precious, casinos that you had to lobby to get in the first place. Like, what was that one casino? I think they may have changed the name by now, but there was one, Lumiere. It was Lumiere Casino in St. Louis. So there was the law that said you had to build casinos on the river. Like that was the law. And then all of a sudden, a bunch of money gets pushed around to different places. And then they repeal that law saying that, oh, well, now you can build a casino out, not on a river. They build the Lumiere Casino. And then the rule gets put back in place. So they basically just a tax carve out for the casinos. I mean, that's what this is. They're trying to funnel money back to the institutions that already make all the money off gambling, because they probably, do supply a fair amount of money. I know that there was a ballot initiative that was in 2024 for putting a casino in. I'm not exactly sure. I can't remember where. I think it was like somewhere in
What is the Lake of the Ozarks?
Possibly, but I don't know if it was specifically Lake of the Ozarks or maybe somewhere around there. Again, I'm not entirely sure where it was, but it was. And what I like to tell everybody is that when you have a ballot initiative, because the ballot initiative process in Missouri is not easy. It's not easy to gather up enough signatures. You have to get like 10% of the number of people who voted for governor in the last election, something like that. And so it's not easy. You have to pay a lot of people to go out and collect signatures for you. It's super, super hard to find enough volunteers to do anything even close to those numbers. And so, and then but then you saw that ballot initiative make it onto the ballot, which just shows you how much money is behind these casinos. And so when they see somebody getting in their game, they've got to shut that down, because it drives me crazy that they can tax you on your income and then they can extra tax you just because you like to do things they don't like to do. If I wanted to smoke a joint and then go gamble, I'm being taxed like so hard on all of that. It's outrageous. It's outrageous. John, over to you.
Yeah. It's again, we live in a state, people jokingly say, oh, I live in misery. Well, it's becoming miserable. These people will make you miserable as they scramble to find more ways to generate revenue. And it's like, again, Catherine, she's in a live chat tonight. Great to see her. Catherine and Kirby used to bring this up a lot. They talked about the spending, the Missouri budget. Man, they'll figure out a way to cut taxes, but they don't want to get their spending under control. And it's just creating this this stupid, vicious cycle of trying to get people to buy into their argument that they're small government people and they're looking out for the working class. And so they're like, hey, we're trying to get rid of the income tax for all you working folks, and then we'll just shift it over to the sales tax and we won't stop spending money. Cool. Okay, then you might as well just leave the income tax in place. Honestly, it's just shifting. You're just laterally moving it somewhere else and playing the shell game. Don't play the shell game. Do us all a favor. and stop spending all the freaking money. I know I'm asking way too much. I'm asking a group of people. I'm not going to say all of them won't agree with me. I believe there are a few up in Jefferson City that would like to see the budget cut. Honestly, that would work hard for that. The rest of them think that if they go back home to their constituents and they don't tell them how they passed bills and blah 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 blah, then they think that people are going to get mad at them. Like, no, if you lay out logically and tell people the truth of what you're doing and why you're doing it, I think people, if you're literally trying to cut the budget, cut spending, do anything you can, I think people are going to appreciate that. I think your constituents will probably appreciate the fact that you're actually trying to do something productive to make their lives a little better, and not, well, I passed this bill that got surely you're not astounded. I am, Catherine. But it's just, I love that. They always have to fake people out with this kind of fake persona. Look how great and it's just beating their chest like, yeah, you're passing all these unconstitutional bills. Missouri Constitution then just says, astounds me how many pieces of legislation have passed one chamber or the other that is already multiple topics. And yeah, and then he says below, I like this one right here. This is what, just don't infringe on the constitutional rights. That's right. That's what we get. People want to, okay. If Tom March was on here, he'd blow a head gasket. He'd say they're natural rights enumerated into the Constitution. I wholeheartedly agree with Tom. But we all know that's the normal phrase. Don't step on my constitutional rights. Okay, then ask for your government, ask for your elected official to stop being a moron and stop the omnibus bills. Why am I moving my hands like Donald Trump right now? Anyway, I'm like Italian. I got to talk with my hands. But anyway, so, okay, we talked about that. So Melanie Stinnett, who is a representative, she's around Jefferson City. I'm sorry, she lives around the Springfield area. She announced today that now she's like one vote shy, I think. But she wants to she's got this piece of legislation for Missourians with developmental disabilities. The Missouri House adopted her amendment to add $250 per terminal fee on video lottery terminals, with the proceeds dedicated specifically to disability services through the Missouri Department of Mental Health. The amendment is expected to generate millions of dollars in sustainable funding to support vital services for individuals with developmental disabilities across the state. Okay, and here we go with the normal talk. This is a big win for Missouri families and for individuals with disabilities who depend on consistent, reliable support. I love how everything's a big win. This is a big win. This is a big win. As we face tighter revenue projections and difficult budget conversations, it is more important than ever that we protect the services that allow Missourians with developmental disabilities to live lives of dignity, independence, and purpose. And this is a CEO of Starling, Erica Rademan. We applaud Representative Stinnett for her innovative approach to strengthening services for people with developmental disabilities. Her willingness to think creatively and champion community-based providers and the people who rely on them reflects a commitment to build a system where individuals can thrive with dignity and independence while living meaningful lives. And then here we go. When new revenue streams are created, we have a responsibility to make sure a portion of that funding strengthens essential services. Yeah, and you're right. She's going to be running Lincoln Huff's district for senator. He is terming out. She's going to be running for that. Also, by the way, figured out what happened last week. Our guest changed calendar apps, and somehow it flipped the from the 10th to the 20th. So he will be on with us next week. Cecil Ince will be on with us next week. Wanted to okay, Catherine, that's a great one. Why do you hate retarded people?
Honestly, I'm not trying to be that guy, but she kind of took the words out of my mouth there. Like, I'm being serious because I always harp on that whenever there's like a bill that's out there, and that if you don't support that bill or you don't support like overfunding that particular thing, then everyone comes out and is like, oh, you must hate that. Like, oh, you don't support the bill for a brand new fire station, you must hate, firefighters. And so that's kind of the idea here. Oh, you don't support this bill, you must hate people with disabilities, hate people with developmental disabilities. Clearly, if you don't support the extra tax. And then I also I hate how they say revenue streams, dude. Stop with the revenue streams. You're just taking money from people. It's not like they make it sound like it's a business structure and they worked for it. It's like, oh, well, if we pump enough assets into this, it'll become a viable revenue stream for our industry or our company. It's like they're using like corporate lingo to describe taking money from people who want to engage freely in the market.
Also, when I think of revenue stream, I think of government peeing money down a hole. That's the only stream I see. That's the only stream I picture. Them just peeing your hard-earned dollars right into a hole and going, look at what we did. And then there's some poor group of people on the other side of that hole like, why is it always raining? And it's like, that's not rain. That's your government peeing on your head. That's what's happening right now. So, Catherine, you really threw me off with that question. I appreciate you making me laugh like that because I let down. I was like, holy crap, she's going full send tonight. Yeah, and the thing is, again, this is a big victory for who? Can I point out one other thing? Where they're saying they're going to live meaningful, independent lives. If they're dependent on government funding, how independent can they be? I get it. They may have developmental disabilities where they can't get a job. If they can't get a job, there's a very good chance they are living with someone who's taking care of them. Maybe not all of them, but a good portion of them. So if they're not in a home for people with developmental disabilities, aren't they kind of independent? Listen, I know it sounds like I hate mentally handicapped people. The only ones I don't like are the ones that operate within government offices. I don't like those mentally handicapped people. The normal ones out here just trying to live their life, I really like those people. So they're generally happy and upbeat. But the mentally retarded ones in Jefferson City and Washington, D.C., I have a huge problem with those mentally undeveloped or underdeveloped people. So yeah, Melanie Stinnett sounds like she fits right in Jeff City. She's finding these, and again, she's talking about the budget concerns and the things that it's like, yeah, I bet. But you guys don't want to spend like we have to spend, where you have so much money coming in, and after that, it's all you're out of money. And Jefferson City governments don't operate that way. Also, to highlight something that Brandon said, they use terminology like corporations do. That's because most people that go up there think of government as a corporation. They think that the government is supposed to turn some kind of profit. It's some kind of profit machine, except for the fact that if we go out and we want to start a business, right, we have to get that capital, right? We have to get people who want investors or something. I just can't walk up and down every block around my house demanding so much money from people so I can start a business. But the government can create new agencies and new things to overlook this and overlook that, and we'll just pull money from the general revenue and move it over here. Where's that money come from? It doesn't come from agencies. It comes from you and I. You and I pay that money. to them so they can start whatever weird agency by people who are selected by the governor. Oh, okay. All of his friends get a new job that pays them. Cool. Who's paying their salaries? It's not the governor. He's not like, you know what? I got a lot of money. I got this. No, he looks to you and I, the taxpayer, to cover that tab. So, yeah, they just run it like a corporation. The problem is the products that corporation tries to pawn off on you. Yeah, it's just like a dumpster full of dookie, and they just roll it in your front yard, and they're like, hey, look at what you bought. And you're like, I didn't buy that. And you're like, well, you didn't know that you bought it, but we bought it for you with the money that we stole from you. And you're just supposed to go, oh, God, that's what I've been wanting, a dookie dumpster right outside my house. So it just draws the flies in. And I've always told people I'm not a good artist, but I can draw flies. And that is my talent on this earth. All right. So moving on to other things. Oh, boy, Catherine is on one tonight. The state is a pimp, and we are their, I'll make this a little more radio friendly, prostitutes. We get tapped over and over again and can't do anything about it. Catherine is on fire tonight. This is the side of Catherine that I enjoy interacting with when she gets spicy. This is when it gets fun. All right.
Oh, can I just really quick, one more
Yes, go
comment
right
on the
ahead.
Melanie Stinnett thing? Like, this is going to sound a little bit rough. So if you have a little bit of water near you, might be good, because this might be a tough pill to swallow. It is unfortunate that someone with a disability who could live independently might not be able to do that without a certain amount of funding for different things that they may need. It is not the responsibility of the taxpayer to provide that. Like, that's just not, it's not in no way is that ever been a function of government, is to provide people with, to provide this level of independence. And I guarantee you, if you weren't taxing the base so hard, then it would be a lot easier to go out and get private funding for something like this. You know what I mean? If the government wasn't already shelling out money, it would be a lot easier for any nonprofit organization to probably come up with more money for it. So yeah.
And again, when that's the thing. I sure do miss Ron Paul being on a campaign stage at this point. Ron Paul used to point out on debate stages all the time that we used to have nonprofits and churches come in and help all these people. And they did a pretty good job. And now the nonprofits will say, you should go down here to this county government office and apply for this and that. They've just, you have the nonprofits, but there are times they just funnel you to the state. So it's like some of these nonprofits, I don't know if they make money by directing people to some state agency to ask for some kind of assistance, whether it's financial or otherwise. I don't know, man. Sometimes it seems that way. I mean, let's face it. Now, I'm not going to get off on the living wage, but when Walmart used to educate their people on, you work there, and then they would teach you how to go apply for food stamps and other things. And it's like, what are you doing? Like, why are you teaching people how to go apply for government assistance when they're working at Walmart? Also, the same company that got caught taking out life insurance policies on some of their employees. So that's Walmart, and I don't like shopping there very much, but whatever. We don't have a lot of options here in Owensville. So you got to go where you got to go. Okay. Now, something else, Brandon?
I just had an interesting story that came out that people were upset about, that I thought was interesting.
Go ahead.
Before I forget it. People were mad at Walmart because Pepsi and Walmart had a deal where Pepsi would make sure that their local competitors couldn't charge less than Walmart. So if they were having, like, anytime they'd found an independent grocer charging less than Pepsi, are charging less than Walmart for Pepsi, they would raise their distribution rates and they would raise the rates on the Pepsi. Now, my initial reaction is, wow, that's some sleazy scumbag behavior. But before anybody jumps to we need to get a government agency in there to shut that down, how about this? Go to your local grocery store and buy an off-brand soda. Because you know that Coca-Cola and all of the other major brands have the same deal in place. You know they do. There's no way it's just Pepsi, and there's no way they do this just for this one company. It's all the big companies, and Walmart's doing it to put all the little guys out of business. So if you're that upset about it, stop shopping at Walmart. I understand, things happen if you have like a need, like your kid has a project and it's 10 o'clock at night and it's the only place open. Like, sure, obviously there are exceptions, but in general, like, large corporations are known for trying to screw people over, and especially their competitors in small business. So just don't support Walmart. Like you said, just don't go there. People were like, someone needs to do something about this. This is criminal. I'm like, it's two private businesses engaging in a deal that that they're guaranteed the lowest rate possible. And so at that point, you have to just make the ethical, smart decision and just not shop there and not buy those products.
Yeah. Now I don't know. I'm assuming not with the Walmart and Pepsi thing. I do know that you have these fair pricing acts in other, like with tobacco and some stuff. There's these fair pricing. You can't like Philip Morris and RJ Reynolds can't offer a deal unless the other one does. I don't know why you do that. I don't know as a business why you would. I would be so mad at the government if they did that. Like, so wait a minute, I can't offer a 3-pack deal unless Marlboro's doing it too. Like, what are we doing here? But that's kind of stuff's out there, and it's these fair pricing acts. But that's some big jerks in charge and lobbyists going to government and demanding that their competition can't outprice them. That's all that is. And you would think that the government would want, I mean, as bad as tobacco products are for you, you'd think the government wouldn't want to engage in fair pricing for tobacco. You'd think they'd want everybody to quit smoking, although they do get an awful lot of tax revenue from tobacco. Just saying. But anyway, yeah, I don't even know a whole lot about these things. But I do know enough that it makes my head hurt really bad when we talk about this. And the fact that the knee-jerk reaction is to go to government and demand that someone passes a law to make it fair. And it's like, okay, so either you suck in your campaign ads and your advertising, and maybe your product isn't superior to this other person, and you haven't figured out a way to sell your product a little more cheaper than your competitors. So what you'd rather do instead is sign a bunch of checks to douche canoes in DC, and they'll just help you equalize that out. That's my opinion anymore. Now, again, if you're helping write legislation and you're using the authority and the power of the federal government to take out your competitors, that just means that you're too lazy to come up with something better than your competitors at a better rate. And so you'll just use that power and authority of a bunch of imbeciles to get you to where you want to be, to keep you at the top, instead of fighting to be the best company that's out there. It just seems like a lazy way to go about it. And it's because once those regulations are passed, the big companies can afford to do it. They'll just pass the cost onto their consumers. And the small companies end up going out of business because they can't deal with the costs. People got to figure this out, man. People have got to figure out it's not always just the corporation's fault, that they are in a partnership with the federal government, helping them write the regulations that end up creating the monopolies. You got to get that through your head. It's not, you can't just look at billionaires and blame them all for your problems. There's not many choices out there. I don't know. If you look at the amount of regulations on the book and laws on this stuff, your head would probably explode if you started reading them. But just take a good get up several thousand feet and take a wide look across the spectrum on whose fault it might be when you have these things happening. That's all I'm saying.
No, but in particular, like with the Pepsi thing, you would think that this would just be a good marketing technique
Yeah.
for an independent soda maker.
Yeah.
I would make a commercial where I'm walking into like Joe's local grocer with a 12 pack and being like, we're not trying to screw you over. You know, we're not raising our prices for the little guy. We support small businesses. Drink, you know, X soda, you know, however you want to do it. But yeah, like you were saying, it's not all about getting the government involved, because more likely than not, the government's going to come in and make it even harder for small businesses. Or kind of like what you were saying a second ago, what just kind of weirdly hit me is when you have large tobacco manufacturers that can only run ads and certain deals and certain pricing in incongruence with each other, that sounds like price fixing. Like that sounds like built-in, like classic price fixing, where big corporations get together and they decide on the price. Like, yeah, okay, the two biggest companies are deciding on the deals and deciding which ones to sell. Kind of seems like, because at a certain point, wouldn't you both have to be like, have working teams together to run the same ads at the same time and certain deals? So it kind of seems like you're pushing the big corporations to work together, which is the exact opposite of what you'd want if you wanted lower prices and fair prices.
Absolutely. So let's move on to the stupid show. There's so much to say on this topic, and I don't want to spend all night on it, but God almighty. This Pam Bondi. I think I was listening to Dave Smith's show on Friday last week, Thursday or Friday, and I thought of Pam Bondi. Then I thought of James Bond, 007, and I just went Pam Bondi, 007. Or, and just like, I'm Bondi, Pam Bondi, 007. And, jeez. And then, and then on Valentine's Day, that's it. That's all the files, except for the 3 million that we didn't release. Again, it is going to be so hard to filter through this material because they just put out a list of names. One had like Janis Joplin or some crap. All these names, and it could have just been people that were talking about the Epstein files. But now there's all those names. Now you've got to make sense of who was just talking about them and who was actually the nefarious ones. And so even in the way they release them is so shady and so terrible that they've muddied the waters. And again, they've got people fighting for all this stupid stuff. I hope I saved it. God, I hope I saved it, because this post, I've got a couple posts. Where's it at? I know I saved it. I know it's there. And now it's gone. Oh, wait a minute. I know how to find it.
We can all agree, though, that the CIA would never let out any information that acknowledged a tie between like Epstein and the CIA. And so there's no, like, I don't know what, like, they're never going to give us the full story. I just kind of, that revelation kind of just hit me, where I was like, as much as like, because I catch myself like, oh, they're releasing some files. So like they might have let something in, let us in, like let's, the deepest, darkest stuff, they're not letting us see that.
No, definitely not. I'm trying to find this post because it was one of my wife's relatives, and I was ready to shove my head into a ceiling fan or something, because I was like, you got to be kidding me. This is what you actually, and Tom sent it out earlier today. It was the same thing that I found, but good Lord, this woman posts a lot of stuff, and I've got to sit here and try to find the exact post.
No,
And
but Catherine quoted Thomas Massey. I think he was on ABC doing an interview, and it said, "I don't think Pam Bondi has confidence in Pam Bondi." I mean, dude, just hey, you know what? As much as we want to talk about this and that, the Dow's at 50,000. So how mad can you really get?
not anymore. Now it's down to 49,000. It's falling.
Well, now we can talk about whatever we want.
That's right. We don't have to listen to that 50,000 Dow Jones anymore. Man, she posts a lot of stuff. You know what? I've got it on my phone. I'll just read it off my dang phone. Stop being stupid and wasting time. I did a short video Friday night, but here we go. I want to read this again because I'm not going to read the whole thing because I will have an aneurysm by the time I get to the end of this. Pam Bondi just played the greatest trap in political history, and Congress walked right into it. Yesterday, Attorney General Pam Bondi sat before the House Judiciary Committee, standard oversight hearing, routine questions. Then she pulled out a document labeled Jayapal Pramia Search History. The room went silent. Here's what happened. The DOJ gave Congress access to the unredacted Epstein files this week. Every member got their own login, their own computer, their own session. What Congress didn't know, the DOJ was tracking every single search, every name they looked up, every document they opened, every file they downloaded, all of it logged. And Bondi brought the receipts to the hearing. The panic was instant. Representative Jayapal called it spying on members of Congress. Representative Raskin accused Bondi of blatant abuse of power. Representative Moskowitz said it was suspicious and inappropriate. They're furious. But here's the question nobody in the media is asking. Why are they so scared of their search history? If you're searching for evidence of crimes against children, you'd be proud of that search history, unless you're not searching for evidence, unless you're searching for your own name. Okay, I'm going to stop right there. I'm going to stop right there because I'm thinking if I walk into the DOJ and I'm looking for files and I'm searching for files and someone is tracking me, I'm going to be furious because I'm thinking that they're keeping track of what I'm looking for. They want to know what I know and what I found. So maybe they can screw with me later. Or they can get in front of it and try to do this, divert the people's attention away from these people are saying, because they're going to look, they were searching for their own name in the files. I bet they're one of them. And you won't pay attention to what that person says. It is some of the most retarded nonsense that I've read. And people are reposting this like it's some serious stuff. So there's that one. And let me read this. Oh, man, I did it again. I'm so dumb. I saved this one. Let me read this because, I mean, we're all so enthralled with Dan Bongino. Dan Bongino had John Solomon on his show today, and Solomon made an interesting prediction. I love this stuff. This is fantastic. That Trump will soon unveil evidence that foreign powers meddled with in the 2020 election, which will result in John Thune ultimately caving on the filibuster and the Save America Act will get passed. I think Donald Trump is going to change the narrative of America. I think he's going to change some senators' minds. He's going to start revealing some of the intelligence that was kept from the American people, and we're going to see that our foreign adversaries have monkeyed around with our election system more than we knew. And I think when senators realize their state could have been targeted, there's going to be a different debate in America. I think there's some big, significant, very troubling revelations about the vulnerabilities of our elections that the president is about to unveil on the American public. Stay the course. Things are going to happen. Shut the front door with that. And again, now we're going to put this out, and then it'll divert all the MAGA people away from the Epstein files. Anything to keep you from looking at the Epstein files or maybe going to war in Iran. We're going to do whatever we can to divert the attention of the American people away from some very, very important, potentially very damaging things, because we don't want to hurt your fragile little brains with the fact that this country might be run by a ring of pedophiles that like to like never-ending wars. We don't want people to come to that understanding. We don't want people to understand how shady and corrupt and gross their government is so that they lose all confidence of them and stop participating in this system. So we're going to now, even though all up until this time, I had never heard the Trump administration say anything about foreign governments meddling in the election that that he lost in 2020. It was all the election machines, and he blamed it on everybody but foreign governments. And now suddenly foreign governments are the problem in the 2020 election. So now they're gonna re-bring up that stolen election, get the MAGA crowd all fired up again about stolen elections, and not watching this hand over here as it just takes a boatload of files and they go into the forgotten ether of our DOJ or whatever. And it's sickening, it's disgusting, and the most troubling thing is people are falling for this stupidity and they're buying it hook, line, and sinker. And that's a scary place to be when you have enough people in a society like that just get hung on every word their cult member or their cult leader says, and they can't bear the thought that this administration is just covering up for a bunch of disgusting people. And I don't know. Again, another group of people, when things go south and they start whining and complaining, I'm like, I don't want to hear anything you have to say. You had the ability. You chose not to use it. You had the ability to see past the BS that they're slinging in your face, and you decided not to. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to sit here and have a pity party for you after the fact. Either start using that big blob of cholesterol that's up inside your dome there, or get out of the way, man. But you got to do something. You can't just keep covering for the orange Cheeto dude. You just can't. I hate using that, but it's funny to say sometimes. You stop worshiping the Chester Cheetah cult leader and start using your brain again.
No, it's with Pam Bondi. She's just, I'm trying to think of the, like,
retarded.
You can't, well, yeah, of course, but you can't act like you're about to uncover something when you spent so long just trying to cover up that the files existed in the first place. Like, we all remember when you said the files don't exist. So then you can't be like, oh, we're about to go get the congressman because of what they were searching for when we gave them access to the files that we said didn't exist. Like, oh, Pam Bondi, this was all Pam Bondi's long play. She came out to her long play was that she was going to say that the files don't exist. Well, she's going to say that they're on her desk and that she's going to release them next week, to then say that the files don't exist, to then get Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna to come together to force the vote. So then when the Congress votes to release the files with the only redactions being the victims, then she can expose Congress for what they were searching in the files. John, it's 5D chess like you've never seen. 5D chess. And Pam Bondi and Donald Trump got them eating out of their palm right now. I mean, for me personally, you could have taken all that back to the warehouse because no one's buying it. Like, you're right. Maggots are buying it. Like the MAGA base, they're all buying it. But us regular Joes, no one's buying. Like of the average, not like totally in cult following. You can't believe that. Like, it can't be like Pam Bondi's big play wasn't to release the search history of Congress, and this was her big play. Oh my gosh, you got to be kidding me.
I'll just say this. I don't want to, again, I don't want to go too long on this, but you have a group of people who seemingly every year are okay with stealing your money. If you don't if you forget a 1 or a 0 on your tax return, they hammer you. They'll regulate things, make them super expensive, ruin health insurance and all these things. But don't you dare even think about putting blame on those people for covering up for a massive, I don't know, blackmail ring, pedophilia, prostitution, and a mix of other things, intelligence gathering. Don't you dare look at those people and blame them. The same people in these same institutions who want nothing more to keep their thumb on you and keep you in place by creating a system that you have to sit there and try to navigate. And you better pay your taxes, and you better do this, and you better do that. But don't you dare demand justice for people who were violated by powerful men. Don't even think about that. Now, that, if you just sit back and think about this, the amount of institutions that we have in this country, we have a mass surveillance state pointed in this country has created a mass surveillance state focused on its own people, treating them like the enemy. And I can't question whether I think some people did some really awful things to kids. Oh, no, that's out of line. That's too far, guys. But we can read every email, every text message, gather audio from phone calls, know all your search histories. Hell, know what books you took out of the library, know how many firearms you own, how much ammo you run, and then have flock camera systems to track your whereabouts as you go through these big cities right now. If you don't pay attention, they're coming to a town near you. They can do all those things to make sure that you stay in line, that you don't stray, that you don't start thinking for yourself, that you don't become independent, that you don't start directing your anger in the right place, demanding your liberties back, your natural rights back. You don't you do that. And then we're gonna come in, we're gonna run our campaign. And part of that campaign is draining the swamp and investigating the Epstein files. And then when it comes down to it, we're going to be forced into releasing them, but we're only going to release part of them. And then we're going to have our AG come in with cards with insults on them per individuals. She had to flip through, Massey put that out. She had to flip through the cards to figure out which insult to hurl at what person was questioning her. You're supposed to abide all of that and just be a good little citizen, a good little drone, stay in your lane, don't question anything, let your government extort you, let them do all these things, but don't you dare question that there are people in high places doing some of those god-awful things you could ever think of doing to children, and that you should not pay attention to. And that's why you should pay full attention to it. That's it. Just hammer them relentlessly, and don't get it. And I'm telling you, I'm just saying it. The midterms are going to come. The Democrats are going to win. And this whole thing, even with the Democrats in control of both chambers, nothing's going to come of this because the Democrats can use this as a campaign thing. But most of them, they don't care about getting those names released either. This is just a sideshow for them. A way to get their base all riled up, to get them to the polls, to vote, to get them into power, so they're the majority, so they can pass their stupid bills, extorting more money out of you and censoring you and keeping a closer eye on you. But that's it. No justice for these people, these kids and these young women or young men that have been violated by the most disgusting pigs on the planet. Nah, can't be bothered with that. So just remember that. If you're feeling a little doubtful on what direction you should point your fingers at and question and the people you should distrust, it's not us. It's not me. It's not Brandon. It's not people in the live chat. It's the people in those buildings who seem hell-bent on just controlling every single thing you do and covering up for criminals. And I've said my piece now. I feel better.
Well, let's just not forget that Jeffrey Epstein was arrested in 2019, was found dead in his cell in 2019. Joe Biden became president in 2021, left office in 2025, and again, this is not credit to any Republicans, but no one in government was talking about Epstein. I mean, there like no one was like the victims weren't coming to the White House. No one was saying a word. And so, yeah, like of course, if the Democrats get back in office, they might find a way because like right now, you've got the major news networks they're mentioning it. I think I maybe I'm wrong, but there might be some correlation between when they wanted to release these files and the Olympics, because it's just the Olympics are on the news all day long. It's like, oh, this guy won gold. Here's his big story. Everyone's talking about that, and none of the major news networks are devoting any real time to the Epstein thing. Like some of the specific politic ones are, but like in general, you would think if you had this much damning evidence against like all of these political leaders, that you would just be nonstop coverage. It's like whenever there was the way less shady evidence on the Trump Russia stuff, which turned out to all be a hoax, it was like all they talked about every night. The walls are closing in on him. The walls are closing in on him. The walls are closing in on him. And there was nothing over and again. So now we get these treasure trove of like you said, super disgusting emails like, hey, thanks for the torture video. And like all the references to, again, I'm, put on your tinfoil hat here, but like all the references to like pizza, the one email that just said age 11. I mean, this should be like top tier, like, and I'm going to bring up something in a second too about Michael Tracy, because that kind of stuff drives me nuts. But, the main point being is that you gotta. Well, anyway, I kind of lost my train of thought on that because I got distracted thinking about Michael Tracy. Have you seen some of that, John?
I don't think I have too much of it.
So his big thing is that like he refuses to acknowledge any part of the Epstein files that you can't go and physically verify, which is absolutely insane because, like I said, this information is coming from the government. So how much information are they really going to give you? They could take whatever files they want, say these are classified for national security, and then not release the file at all. So then not only is it like a file that's not redacted, what would stop the CIA coming in from taking the file and deleting it off of an FBI server? And then it's gone forever from them. But Michael Tracy, he's like calling out, he thinks he's like playing ultimate journalist because he's like attacking like anybody who references like these, it exposes how damning these emails are in relation to like the child sex trafficking. Like you had the whole document that Pam Bondi, it was the one we talked, I think we did the video when you played last week whenever it was Les Wexner. The only document that he had been blacked out from, the only file that he'd been redacted from was the one marking him as a co-conspirator in the child sex trafficking. And so again, I don't, the fact that like you'll have people being like, well, you can't, none of this is proven. It's like, oh my gosh, you've got all of this super incriminating stuff. And because you don't have like an actual video of someone doing something terrible, they act like it doesn't exist.
Yeah, I'm sitting here looking at some of his X posts that he has. Let's see. Yeah, he just comes on here. He just like absolutely goes off on, well, let me see. Where's the one? It was just up here. Every single Epstein victim pictured here was an adult at the time of their claimed victimization. Has the media bothered to clarify this? And he's just
again,
Jesus,
like
dude.
it is possible. I mean, not even possible. Like there's a pretty good chance that some of the information that some of the victims are giving is not going to be true. And there might be people who are joining on like a bandwagon of victimization for money. Because at certain point there have been like victim funds from Jeffrey Epstein's estates that have paid out large sums of money to victims. But with the amount of evidence that we're coming in that's came in, you can't plausibly claim, like he's right in a sense that we can't actually prove, like we don't have the evidence of the full network of the child sex trafficking ring. We don't have like, the diagrams with a web that connects all the names and all of the payment amounts. Like, you're right, we don't have that. We just have all of the most powerful people in the world going to hang out with a guy known for sleeping with underage girls, attracting them to do various things at all of his different properties, flying around on an airplane that other people named the Lolita Express because it is a vague reference to a guy who sleeps with underage women. And so, and all of the most powerful people in the world are flying around with him and hanging out with him and sending him emails about how great his parties were and stuff. It's like, you can't, it's the level of denial you have to be in to make this your whole shtick right now is insane.
So I guess this Terry Palmieri must have been on Piers Morgan the other day, and she said Michael Tracy, who calls himself a journalist, has been smearing Jeffrey Epstein survivors and sometimes me. I can take it, but I asked him one simple question: are you being paid by someone powerful to attack sex crime victims? Yes or no? His audio mysteriously died. And she's asking the question, and you just see him like start fiddling with his thing, like he doesn't want to answer the question.
It's not entirely truthful. He does say in that clip at some point that no, his only money comes from his Substack subscribers. So again, in fairness to the truth, that's not exactly what happened. But again, it's another thing too to like raise these questions in good faith. But he's basically saying that if you don't buy the government narrative right now, that you are like a loony bin who believes in like kooky, like you believe in lizard people. He treats people who believe that Epstein was running a child sex trafficking ring the same as he treats people who believe that the earth is flat. And so like, that's what, there's no nuance to him at all. And like, it's crazy. And he's not alone. There are other journalists and other people, like different, influencers. And it's actually, this kind of stuff is picking up momentum from people on the right. Like more and more conservative influencers are trying to push the narrative that Epstein wasn't involved in like a child sex trafficking scandal, but that just there's an overwhelming amount of circumstantial evidence against that.
Yeah, so I'm not going to play it, but it says Michael Tracy confronts Ian Carroll over making up conspiracy theories on social media. The resistance libs in attendance don't like Michael for not believing survivors. Stand with the online anti-Semite fake news monger. The Epstein Coalition in action. I still haven't gone on and looked at watched that Ian Carroll video either, where he's got that website up, that WEBB, where he's supposed to use AI to look up any. I have not gotten a chance to do that yet. I need to, just to see what he's come up with. Yeah, I've never seen this Michael Tracy guy. I will say this. This is not very nice, but who cares, right? It's our show. We can say what we want. If you took a group of people and said, which guy looks like a pedophile, like based on things you see on TV, the dude looks like the pedophile. He's got the big glasses. He's partially balding. He's got the scruffy beard and stuff. He looks like a pedophile in a lineup of like, what is that, Law and Order SVU? If Michael Tracy was on that show, everybody on the TV and watching TV would be like, there's your pedo right there. I can freaking see him. He looks like the textbook picture of a pedophile.
He looks like if George Costanza and Harvey Weinstein had a baby.
That's no kidding. Festivus. So, all right, let's go to this. Let me share this. People, I hope you haven't eaten lunch. I hope you haven't eaten supper yet. And if you have, I hope you've digested it, because what I'm about to play is vomit inducing. When it comes to these two douche canoes, oh, wait a minute. I don't remember if I'm bad about, yeah, I didn't hit share system audio. Now we'll get the audio. Prepare to lose your lunch. Here's Mark Levin and Newt Gingrich with their Israel good, Iran automatically bad. This is 6 minutes. I don't know if we'll make it through all 6 minutes because my supper hasn't fully digested yet, and I don't want to throw up on my microphone. But here we go.
Welcome back, America. We're here with really one of the great statesmen, Newt Gingrich. Newt, let's cut right to the chase here. Iran.
Okay, first of all, I'm going to stop it right there. Great statesman.
I started laughing immediately.
Jesus. Okay. Oh, let's move on before I.
I remember Margaret Thatcher when it came to Iraq and negotiations and all, and she said, "What's to negotiate about? What are we going to negotiate?" My question to you is, and I say this respectfully, what are we negotiating about? This is a terrorist regime that's slaughtering its own people to stay in power, that has killed Americans, that supported Iraq against us and maimed Americans. It's an ideological death cult that goes back to the 7th century, and they're not going to stop being what they are, whatever paper they sign. So unless negotiations are a head fake, as some people suggest, why are we negotiating?
Well, look, I agree with you 100%. As recently as a couple of weeks ago, the Iranian parliament was chanting death to America. And of course, they'll chant death to Israel. Now, as a historian, my experience is when you have a group of people chanting death to you, it's useful to assume they're serious. And it's not just propaganda or some strange psychological language. So we've had an experience of being basically, from their side, they've been at war with us since 1979. They're very clear about that. We were described by the original founder, Ayatollah Khomeini, as the great Satan. Israel was the little Satan. And his position as a religious leader was that the job of religious people is to destroy Satan. Our elites have tried desperately to avoid the reality that this is an evil regime. It's a regime which survives only by killing its own people. It is dedicated to the destruction of the United States and the destruction of the West, says so openly. So I don't understand why the administration would meet with them, because it legitimizes the regime. They were in real trouble a few weeks ago. They only survived by killing thousands of people. President Trump said you need to stop killing. They didn't pay any attention. They continued to kill people. They're today continuing to kill people. And there's a practical reason. If they quit killing people, they're going to get overthrown. And so they want to stay in power. So I'm with you. I think the only long-term strategy is to encourage the people of Iran to take back their own country, to dramatically weaken the regime further, and to undermine its capacity for imposing itself. And ultimately, I think we can do that. So I don't know why we would meet with them, which makes them look like they're a legitimate government. They're not. They're a dictatorship dedicated to destroying the United States.
You know, the isolationists like to talk about warmongers, and I've coined a word called diplomacy mongers. That is, people who think that we can talk our way or they can talk their way into some kind of an arrangement. I've also presented a parallel example, not exact, but good enough, with North Korea. North Korea did this for 20 years. They'd sign any damn piece of paper. They got subsidies. We tried to buy peace from these people. And what is it? It is a concentration camp with 50 nuclear weapons, building 6 or 7 nuclear weapons every single year.
All right, that's enough of that. Let me get that off my screen. He's just going on with more and more propaganda there. What a driveling twit he is. Just to
It's a lot to unpack there.
Okay, you know what? I guess I'm an isolation monger then. That's fine. I'm cool.
Oh,
You know why?
Diplomacy monger.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, diplomacy monger.
Which is
Yeah, it's
the craziest
these
thing I've ever heard.
isolationists. They're diplomacy. Cool. I'm fine with being a diplomacy monger. One of the things that always bothers me the most with this kind of talk from Levin and the Gingriches of the world, they always like to make the US out to be this very moral and just country, right? We're just trying to spread our freedom seeds across the world. Now, we might displace several million people or kill them either directly or indirectly, either starvation or with bombs dropping or whatever. But that's cool. That's moral and just. You know what isn't moral and just? Having diplomatic relations with leaders that you may necessarily not like. That's immoral. That's the most god-awful thing you can do is talk to someone you disagree with and try to make an arrangement. Now, he wants to talk about a treaty. Oh, they'll sign any damn piece of paper. Yeah. Guess who was tearing up those treaties? Our country was. We tore up treaties with them. Obama put it in. Trump came in. Ripped it up. Right? So they can sit there and play that. They can say that. They can say, well, they're just going to sign any piece of paper. Yes. How can our history in the Middle East, if I am a leader in a Middle Eastern country, most of them are not naive enough to go, I can fully trust those guys. They always keep their word. They will never come in and backdoor me and attack me later. That's never happened. Ever. Never. We've never done that. We've never gone in and destabilized a region because that guy wouldn't do what we wanted them to do and dispersed millions of people and just leveled towns. And we've never done that. Ever, 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 ever. We've never. Everything we do is peace through force, and it's to spread freedom and democracy across the world. So if I'm a leader in any country, but especially the ones that they keep talking about being the axis of evil over there, I'm not going to trust anything this government says. I'm be like, hey man, I made a collage. I made a collage and I printed it out and I put it on this wall in our meeting room here. See that? That's all the folks that you said were cool, and now they did. So can you? What kind of guarantee can you make that I also won't be part of this collage later on? Nothing. You got nothing? Okay. Talks are over. I don't want to talk to you. I'm not saying that the Iranian government is some great and benevolent and peaceful nation, that they don't have some whack jobs running around in their country. Every country has whack jobs running around in it. Sometimes we put those people in power. And I'm just saying, but you're so, again, don't you dare ask for diplomacy. Don't you dare have the weird thought that we can talk to people that some would consider our enemies and try to work something out, like i.e. Tulsi Gabbard going to Syria and talking to Assad, and then Hillary Clinton's head exploding like a neutron bomb. And then she was a Putin puppet and everything else. Like that was just totally out of bounds. You can't go around being peaceful. Now, we want other countries to be peaceful. We want them to have democracy and freedom. So my question is, what's the best way to do that? Do we do that by force or do we lead by example? We don't lead by example. We do it by force. And then we create new enemies, and then we get to make war against the new enemies that we created by being giant a-holes all over this planet. But again, don't focus on that. According to a guy, we're the great Satan. So that's all you got to focus on. Just being a great Satan. That's it.
Okay, so here are my notes from just this little short clip here. If you're looking for context on the death to America thing, and again, I'm not saying this is how all Iranians feel, and I'm not even saying this is how a majority feel, but If you go back and watch Tucker Carlson's interview with the president of Iran, it's not the Ayatollah, but I guess the president of the parliament. He says that whenever they chant death to America, it doesn't mean they want to wipe out every man, woman, and child, innocent or not, from the place that is called America. What they mean when they say that is a short version of death to the empire of America that oppresses us. That's what they're chanting. And they say the same thing about Israel, death to the government of Israel that is oppressing us. And so if our government, would stop sanctioning them and bombing, endless bombing campaigns in the region, then maybe they wouldn't chant death to us. Because even when the Ayatollah overthrew the government in 1979, overthrew the Shah, they weren't chanting death to America until 6 months later, when the United States agreed to take the Shah back. Like, not even when they were chanting death to America, because I don't even know if they were chanting death to America then. But when the Ayatollah, or when the United States took the Shah in for cancer treatment, is when the Iranian people really turned against the United States. And then the United States then funded the opposite side of the Iraq-Iran war for a decade against the basically from 1980s. I think it was maybe an 8-year war between the two sides. And so how is Newt Gingrich going to go on there like they've been at war with us since 1979? We funded the opposite side of a war campaign, and it was Saddam Hussein's war of aggression on the Iranian people. It wasn't like the Iranian people said, "Oh, we're ready to go to war with Iraq." It was exactly the opposite. Saudi Arabia gave the green light to Iraq to launch that war, not defend themselves. So it's been the United States in some form or fashion has been the aggressor against Iran. What else do we have? He calls it, they keep calling it like an evil regime, and that the only way they stay in power is by mass slaughtering their own people. Max Blumenthal did a pretty decent bit of reporting on the amount of like armed violence that these protesters, and that basically it was almost a rebellion army at a certain point. Like, there were armed groups taking over buildings and destroying buses and infrastructure. This wasn't like a bunch of peaceful people with signs standing on the sidewalks. This was a violent protest, borderlining revolution. And so, again, it's not to say that the Iranian regime was right to do what they did in all regards, but they were, in their minds, they're fighting a war. This isn't, you know what I mean? This wasn't quashing a protest. This was like, they're coming for us to destroy us. We are fighting back. And obviously, you know what you don't see a lot of? Any actual news coverage on any of it. All you hear is people like Mark Levin and Newt Gingrich telling you their side of the story. But you don't know, no one, I don't know how very many people even listening to this stream have done a deep dive on what led to the crackdown. Because yes, it was a very violent crackdown by the Iranian regime, but it wasn't just a bunch of people gathered in the streets with signs that caused that. Or else you'd probably have seen some, more coming out about that.
Yeah, I mean, when they started throwing out numbers, I was like, okay, I'm already done. You have, it was just pure propaganda. That's all it was. They're like 30,000 people. Some people say 100,000 people have been killed. I'm like, okay, I've heard this song and dance before. Let's not forget that a certain person told our government in the first Iraq war, Iraqi soldiers were going into Kuwaiti hospitals and pulling babies out of incubators so they could die. Big fat lie. One of the lies that convinced people in our government to go and attack Saddam Hussein the first time, and was at 91. So I'm sorry, when my government and these people throw out these numbers like this, I don't believe them. I go, oh, cool. You guys are cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs and you're trying to get us into a war. Now, I do remember at times when the Bush administration and others were looking at going into Iran, Defense Department people, these experts were like, that's not a country you want, like, because of the topography and the layout of the land, That is not some easy war that you walk into. And apparently there are people out there like, we could have this will be done in some weeks. Same thing they told us about Iraq and Afghanistan too. Lies.
Well, again, it's not about taking out the leader. It is about the government that comes in after them being sustainable and ethical. Like that's the whole thing. You can take out a government's lead. It isn't that difficult to take out a government's leader. It is very difficult to then install a new government that is going to be better than the last one, to fill a power vacuum in a country like that. Because let's not to say that there's not a large minority of people who still support the Ayatollah, even if their regime is toppled. So then you've got a civil war on your hands. Because, I mean, because you're either going to have people that are still like a minority of the country that are very upset that you overthrew their leader, or you're going to have to go out and kill all those people.
Yeah,
and then guess what? And then guess what's going to happen? Then we're going to have an influx of refugees all over Europe, possibly coming over to the United States. And then we're vulnerable to counterattacks from that regard, not to mention, as you've seen in Europe, the massive strain's probably a soft word, but like the effects of what mass migration from the Middle East has done to Europe. And you want to continue that same logic of thinking with Iran, who's got 20 some odd million people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, let's go into one of the biggest countries in the Middle East and destabilize that government and see how many refugees we have to take on. And the crazy part is there'll be refugees that were supportive of the Ayatollah regime. It's crazy.
And what you said earlier, like they want somebody that's ethical and moral, according to who? The people in our State Department and our military, the highest, the top of the military chain, because I don't know, we've destabilized other countries and put leaders in that aren't so ethical and moral either. So what gauge are we using? Ethical and moral, like to us, normal people, or to the people at the top that only worry about financial gains or something like that? Because there's a huge difference in what we would consider moral and ethical compared to what they consider moral and ethical. And again, if we're going to talk morality and ethics here, again, displacing millions of people, killing millions of people, destroying swaths of land, buildings, and so on and so forth, and the war on terrorism. And again, we've seen the effects, the amount of, and the UK, whether they like to admit it or not, the UK has a problem with gang rapes there. And it's not from people born in Britain. Those are from people in Middle Eastern countries. And that government has fought really hard to censor anybody bringing it up, but there have been a few brave souls who've really dived into that topic and produced good content's not a right word because it's horrible, but they've brought the receipts on this, and the UK government just wants to act like it's not a thing. And you'll have that in several other European countries. They're so woke and pretend to be so tolerant. I mean, how woke do you have to be where your own people are getting raped and you just go, can't say nothing, guys? Just, that's part of, we don't want to attack their culture. A rape culture? I mean, it kind of lines up with the whole Epstein thing, right? Like, we don't want to talk about rapey people over here in high places, and the UK doesn't want to talk about rapey people rapey culture by people in low places. Everything's just corresponding here. Everything's correlating. Rape and disgusting things everywhere. Like, guys, not easy. Don't talk about that. Don't bring that up. Rape is hard for people to stomach. Yeah, it kind of is, especially when you're covering for them. But anyway.
Well, I just want to know, like, so the United States now has a green light to go in and attack any country that,
apparently,
because again, there's no imminent threat. right? Whenever the people are over there, they're mad at, our government's choices, and they do shout death to America. Poor choice of words, granted, if that's like the literal translation they're using. Yeah, probably poor choice of words, but you have to understand context of what they mean. Like most of them don't, like most Iranian people don't actually want to see every American wiped off the face of the earth. So then what's your justification for going in and bombing a country? A dictator that doesn't treat his people very well? Like a dictator that is, any dictator across the entire globe that engages in any form of, not any form of oppression on their people, any violent oppression of their own people, that gives the United States the green light to just start a war with them. That's an insane concept. Then why haven't we dropped bombs in Russia if that's the justification? Because apparently Putin killed Alexei Navalny with rat poison in Siberia. He's in a Siberian prison and they poisoned him with rat poison anyway. But so now I guess, what is that? The green light? We should go bomb Russia because they're a nasty regime. Is that what you do? China oppresses people, jails people for their protests in Hong Kong. Do we bomb China now? Like, again, that's not our strategy when someone can actually fight us back. So again, it's like our morality is only as big as our arms. You know what I mean? Or we're just going to go start bombing every African nation that oppresses its people. Like we just go wipe them out until a new regime comes in and we wipe them out, a new regime. I mean, I'm sure that would be Mark Levin and Newt Gingrich's wet dream, is just a perpetual war state at the snap of a finger. But that's going to bankrupt our treasury, ruin any sort of chance for good foreign relations, especially in a country that has vast resources and a bad leader. What, we might have to make a deal. Dude, it's just insane. Like the lack of clear logic, you know what I mean? The lack of consistent logic from A to B is baffling between those two men.
Yeah, I can't. I mean, I'm clearly generally not the smartest person in the room, but I'm not that stupid. And I can't follow their logic either. And even if I could follow their logic, I don't trust them. I don't know. I don't know about the rest of you folks, but I'm tired of being lied to. I'm tired of being BS'd into these things all the time. I used to fall for it. I quit falling for it a long time ago. I'm done. I'm done with these wars. Now, if they come over here and they attack us, yeah, be my guest. Go turn them into dust particles at that point. Cool. But if they're not over here attacking us actively, what are you doing? It looks like you're trying to get people over here to attack us, which is bananas, but that's what it looks like they're doing. Like, hey, the only way we seem to get these people to really want to go to war is if we're actively attacked. So I know what we'll do. We'll make the people angry, but we'll let some of them come over here. And if we get a cell that does something awful, we get to go to war. I mean, give me another reason why you would keep up this insane approach of your foreign policy and think at some point this is all going to work out, fellas. All right. Brandon, any closing thoughts? We got 3 minutes left.
So I was at the Mardi Gras parade in St. Charles over the weekend, working a booth with the St. Charles County Libertarian Party. Great turnout, good crowd, lots of nice people there. But someone who came by was State Representative Colin Wellenkamp, who apparently has an office real close to Bryant Wolfen and right around the corner from Overcast. And we had a pretty good conversation. And I told him that if he had any bills he wanted to talk about, or if he would be willing just to come on for an interview, he gave me his email address. And so I'm going to reach out, hopefully hear back from him, and we might get another sitting representative come sit down with us. So that would be pretty cool.
Outstanding. Yeah. And again, we'll have Cecil Ince on with us next week. I'm going to start looking for some other guests as well, just to kind of keep that going. I like it when we have other people on here to talk to about liberty type things, or, hopefully they're liberty minded type people. And you don't, by the end, you feel like you got to cut the interview short or you're going to lose brain cells. I generally haven't had that problem on this show. But I'm kind of picky about my guests. I don't just let anybody come on here and try to spread their propaganda all over the show. I'm not here to spread propaganda about growing government or treating government like a business or whatever that crap. Nope, I can't. I'll just end up muting them the whole time. Like, oh, cool. But nobody on the live stream hears anything. You'll hear it on the audio recording, but you won't hear squat on the, well, no, you won't even hear it on the audio recording. Actually, you won't hear squat from them. So anyway, all right. With that being said, folks, again, next Tuesday, we'll be joined by Cecil Ince, Libertarian candidate, running for Huff's position because he is terming out. Oh, darn. And I'm sure we'll all shed a single tear when he leaves office on his final day, just like when Plocker left. Anyway, I mean, it will be celebratory, but it's not because I'm sad to see him go because he's doing such a bang up job. But anyway, to all of those who listen via podcasting app or at molibertyradio.us, thank you again for your continued listenership and support. And to those of you on YouTube and Rumble, we also appreciate you very much. But again, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you'll know when we go live on Tuesday nights at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. All right, folks, that's going to do it. And we'll see you next Tuesday right here on the Missouri Liberty Report.